Howdy folks, welcome back to Doing Brew. Today we're going to be reviewing the Kreg R3 Jig, or the Kreg Jr. Now honestly folks, I've been a tried and true biscuit joinery carpenter for about the past 25 years, making a huge amount of tables, desks, and bookshelves. But I've heard so many good things about pocket joinery, I thought I'd give it a shot. So I picked up this Kreg Jig Jr. or R3 at my local home store for about $29. I think it was on sale for about $10 off. So right out of the box you've got the instruction manual, which honestly is pretty straightforward. And then you have the jig itself. This gray plate holds a pretty slick clamp system, which I'll show you in just a moment. And Kreg provides you a screw hole right in the center so that if you're not going to clamp it down, you could use a wood screw and screw it to the material you're going to put the pocket hole into. But I like using this adapter here, which holds a special clamp that Kreg provides. Now you have to buy that separate, and that cost me about $25. But I think it's well worth it. You can see it's kind of a fully articulating clamp system that allows you to secure that pocket hole jig really to any surface you're going to be drilling into. The next thing up is the drill bit. It's really two drill bits in one, with this one pilot hole bit and then a larger drill bit that drills out the pocket hole itself. Next up is the square drive driver, which fits into the Kreg screws that have a really nice deep pocket on them that prevents tear out. Okay, let's take a look at what you got to do to set this thing up. In the box, in the cradle where the drill bit rests, it has a calibrated or graded scale where you put the drill bit back into the cradle and then move the stop collar to the setting for the thickness of the board you're drilling into. It's really that simple, and it's a pretty slick little system. And then you just simply tighten down the hex nut with the wrench that's provided, and that's really all there is to it. Okay, next up we have to set up our drill. So we'll put our drill bit into the drill, tighten it down, and then you notice I'm on the screw setting here. I want to go to the drill setting, and then I want to go to the high speed setting on my drill. Now my drill's set up to go. Next up is to set up the jig itself. I'm going to take off the clamp plate, and you notice these light gray slides on the side. Again, Kreg's done a pretty nice job here. You depress those and then push them or pull them back and forth to get to the setting you need. You see those arrows there on the blue part of the jig. You set that up to, again, the thickness of the material you're working for. For us tonight, that'll be 3/4 of an inch. And that's really all there is to it. Now we're set up to drill some pocket holes. Okay, so we're going to do a little bit of work with both soft and hardwoods, just as an example. This is some pine, and we're going to join these boards at a 90-degree angle to form kind of a corner piece, if you will. So I've got the jig set up on the clamp system, and we're going to go ahead and secure that in place to the board that we want to bore the pocket holes into. And with the jig secured to our material, simple process of following the guide in the jig and boring out those pocket holes. And a very quick reposition of the jig, and we're ready for our second set. Now, by the way, Kreg recommends drilling your pocket holes at about 6 inches on center to provide the securest joint. That's it, and it really is about as simple as it looks. So now with our pocket holes drilled out, we're ready to put these boards together. And as you would with any other wood joinery, you want to use a good quality wood glue. And as you folks know from my other videos, I really like using the Titebond products. Titebond has a great selection of many different types of glue for whatever type of project you might be working on. So now with the glue in place, we'll set the boards into our clamps. Get them set up just right and ease that in. Now, with any other kind of joinery with glue, you don't want to tighten those clamps down too much because then you end up with a glue-starved joint. Now, a quick bit on the screws. These screws are, of course, provided by Kreg. And there's a whole variety of screws for indoor and outdoor use. We're going to be using indoor screws. And you see one is a coarse thread and one is a very fine thread. The coarse thread is for pines or softer woods. The fine thread is for your hardwood materials. The fine threads prevent the wood from splitting, which may occur if you use the coarse thread screw. And the screws kind of have a built-in washer, which is nice. It prevents the screw head from sinking too far into the wood and blowing out the other side of your project. Okay, now we've got to set up our drill with the square drive, and I need to switch back from the drill setting to the driver setting, and then I want to adjust the setting for the amount of torque that's used to drive that screw into the material. You want to set it on a low setting initially because with today's drills you could really over torque that screw and drive it clear through your material and ruin your project. So with that nice long square drive that's included in the kit, it makes for real easy work putting those screws in. Now let's go ahead and ease over that torque setting and sink those screws in just a little bit more in a real controlled fashion. Now we'll keep it on that torque setting and we'll set up to set our last two screws. And these two boards are joined together just about as securely as they can be. And a little bit of cleanup, and we'll set these boards aside overnight to fully cure. Next up, let's try some edge joinery. The type of joinery you do if you want to make a large tabletop out of multiple boards, which is the way tabletops have been made for hundreds of years. Now I'm not working with scrap pieces of hardwood here. I'm working with two pieces of cherry that I want to join up edge to edge for a box mantel project with a double return on each end. You'll see that project coming in a couple of weeks. Now the basic setup is identical to what we just did with our pine pieces that we joined at 90 degrees. We're going to go ahead and set up our pocket hole jig, clamp it to our material, and go ahead and drill out the hole. Now in this case, since I'm only joining a 3-inch wide piece of material to the edge, I'm only going to drill out one hole, and then I'll use a combination of glue, the clamp pressure, and the screw to permanently join these two boards together edge to edge. Now I'm using the Titebond heat resistant glue, and the reason why I'm kind of breaking from tradition here and using pocket hole joinery is because I'm concerned that just glue and that biscuit with the constant heating and cooling of the fireplace is just not going to be enough to keep that joint together. I wanted that mechanical fastener to hold everything nice and tight. So I got the glue on. I'm making sure everything's joined up nice and evenly. What you're looking at here is actually the underside of the mantle, which won't be seen. And I'll ease that clamp in. And once I'm happy with my setup, I'll go ahead and put that single screw into our pocket hole. And that's going to lock that joint together forever. And a little quick cleanup, and we'll set this aside overnight to set up. Okay, the glue's had 24 hours to set up. Let's see how things worked out. Okay, well, as you'd expect, it's a nice clean joint. Everything seems to line up nicely. A little bit of sanding required here, but nothing out of the ordinary. And I tell you what, it is just as strong as can be. I'm really putting everything I've got into it, and it's not even budging. Let's take a look at the small panels that we joined up for our box mantle project. Overall, really happy with it. Got a little bit of sanding to do there. Overall, really nice, and I'm really happy with my Kreg Jig Junior. Certainly worth the $29 that I spent on it. Hey folks, thanks a lot for joining me for this video. I hope you got something out of it. Honestly, the Kreg Jig is a great little system, and I can see the larger jig system as a purchase for me somewhere down the road. Please join me for my box mantle project that'll be coming out here in a week or so. I think it's going to be pretty cool, and it should be pretty easy to build. Certainly something that anybody with kind of novice skills can take on. And hey, again, thanks a lot to Jonivan Jones making his music available on Brew. See you next time, folks.